what moves through you as love will be in Trey. Yeah, it's real, Trey. He's real. He's real, and I didn't know that. I don't know anything about those places where he's an immeasurable teacher. Anybody that says to me they turn to that teacher, keep turned to him, keep turned to that teaching. He's a particular thing. Like, he's not the same as the ILs, as that angelic crew. He's not the same thing. He's a meat and potatoes type of factory floor. Okay, I get the body thing. Let me help you. Hey there, everybody. Thomas Ellis is my name. I'm also known as Tommy, and this is Your Superior Self podcast.
Tommy boy, thank you so much for taking the time. I'm actually reading your book right now. It's called The Gospel of Thomas. Good stuff.
Really, Trey. Yeah, actually have it. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Because it's fascinating. Some of the little bits and pieces in that are amazing.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like, it reads different, it hits different, and you can't look at it with an analytical mind. You really got to resonate with the messages, for sure.
Yeah, it's very strong, very strong.
I want to know, Tommy, like, having a couple conversations with you already, and just listening to some of your material. Like, you're very fascinating, and I really enjoy diving into the deep end with you about just philosophy in general. But first, I want to know, how is it that you experience this reality?
So, are you asking me about how I'm experiencing this reality right now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So, my experience is that there's nothing solid. My experience is that which you call a floor, that which you call a wall, we know when it's investigated at any depth that it's not there. And it's a very interesting thing to say that, Trey, but it's a completely different thing to experience it. And as we've been kind of lining up to have this podcast, to have this conversation, it's a very good idea for the viewers or the listeners to really get that this is being directed to you. This is not a methodology. It's not arbitrary. This is being directed directly to you, directly to your experience. So if you're a listener, if you're a viewer, if you're watching this on YouTube, consider what's just being said. Don't just leave it. Don't just leave it. So the idea is, Leonard Susskind is the principal investigator to the idea of the holographic universe, that what we're in is a hologram. What would that mean? It would mean that when investigated, it doesn't matter if you see, feel, taste, touch, hear through your sense gates, through your sense perceptions. The fact about it is that there's nothing solid here. So just stay with that. Stay with there's nothing solid here. And then let that wash through the body. Have a think about it. So what's my experience in this place? My experience is that we are literally at the tippy top of a magic trick. We don't know what it is, but when you get on the right side of this, Trey, when you get on the right side of it, which means when you start to think and feel in a particular way around the lack of solidity in this place, you're going to have a different time, a very, very different time. And this is for the people that are listening and viewing this, Trey. We're just throwing this their direction. It's amazing. It's just, it's amazing what we're in. We are the rabbit being pulled out of the hat, but people are so, they got a lot of hurt inside of them. They got a lot of weight inside of them. They got a lot of difficulty inside of them. And we know what to do with that now. We know, Trey, how to get you, the listener, the viewer, to have a better experience. Start with, there's nothing solid. That's my experience. I don't believe in it. I can knock on a wall all day, every day. I don't believe that it's there, because it's not there. It's not there. When it's investigated with these high energy quantum physicists, you're going to see over time that they're right mathematically and otherwise, and you're probably not right, which means the wall ain't there, the floor ain't there. So you got to ask yourself, what is there?
I love that.
That's what it's like. That's what it's like inside of me, Trey, all day, every day. And my partner, Rachel, really kind of has to go, okay, listen, dude, it's 11 o'clock at night. I don't want to know what it's like on the edge of a black hole and considering arc time. She's like, it's sleep time. So that's where I am.
Sure. Well, we've had many conversations, and I don't know if you've came to this realization all at once, or this is like a progressive accumulation of just your path. But like, what did that look like for you? Like, who was Tommy, 10 years ago, in comparison to who you are now? Like, were you a seeker? Was there an event in your life that triggered this curiosity, this evolution of consciousness? Like, what did that look like for you?
Well, just as you're saying it, Trey, it's starting to stir. And there was an event, and it happened in 1994, and it was around February 14th, 1994, which was a Monday, and it was about 9 or 10 a.m. And during that event, I walked into a treatment center that was to do with drug abuse, alcohol abuse. That's what they dealt with in this particular center. And I was just turned 20 years of age. So I had been arrested for something. And the police were really adamant about me going to jail for a short period of time. And I was like, given another option to go to this treatment center. So I opted for the treatment center. And that was a pivotal moment. And there was a pivotal moment just prior to that as well, Trey, which is my uncle had a conversation with me. And in that conversation, he told me that he loved me. And the energy and the electromagnetic fields that broadcast from his body went right through me. And I felt it. I felt that he cared. I felt that he wasn't going to steer me the wrong way. I trusted him. And he said to me, go into the treatment center. Just go. Even to hide for 6 weeks, just go. So that's what I did. I went in there, and on that February 14th, on that morning, I had a profound experience. And the profound experience was, there was two female therapists, and these ladies were like magi. They were amazing to me. I couldn't believe the skills they had. There was every sort of reprobate was in this particular. There was gamblers, there was alcoholics, there was drug addicts, there was all sorts. I mean, they were a motley crew at a minimum, mostly men, of course. But these two female therapists, they blew my mind with how they conducted the circle. And also, I was sitting in a circle. And when I was sitting in a circle, something happened. It was like, this feels like home. We're having a conversation about something here. This feels like home. And people were investigating a particular level of honesty. And I really, really liked that, because honesty was few and far between in my life at that time. So I became chemically in my body very addicted to honesty and straightforwardness and precision and articulation. And these particular female therapists, they blew my mind in relation to that. So I just got lost in that world for a bunch of time. That was 1994, and I was just turned 20 years of age at that point.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. That led to you cultivating a stronger curiosity of connecting with that feeling. that honesty more
Mm.
so. And so,
Mm.
which led you down a path of exploration and different modalities. It seems like, I
Yeah.
think you've done many different, I think you've done all the modalities, to be honest with you, man. I feel like I was
Mm.
reading your story and I was like, man, what haven't you done? But
Mm.
at the end of it, right, you speak about this pattern that still comes back with you. And I feel like there are some unique cases where people try psychedelics or breath work
Mm.
or whatever,
Mm.
and they have these awakening moments and they are
Mm.
changed forever, right? And they have these realizations
Mm.
of who they truly are. But then majority of those individuals, I feel like, uh, myself included, still have these patterns, these repeating
Mm.
patterns that show up in our everyday lives, which dictate the
Yeah.
way that we perceive reality, the stories that we create in our heads. Like, did that ever change for you? Did
Mm.
the pattern ever stop repeating for you? And
Mm-hmm.
what changed it?
Mm. So what you're pointing to right now, what you're speaking to right now, it's really, really important that people understand what we're talking about here. The personality that's known as Tommy is made up of sense gates: seeing, feeling, tasting, touching, hearing. So Tommy is made up of these sense gates, and the Tommy personality was built in a particular way by the culture I grew up in, by the family I grew up in, by the society that I grew up in. So that has, if that works for you, it works for you and it feels good. That's not what it was like for me. It didn't feel good. I never felt good. My experience was defined from morning, noon, and night by the hormones of stress. It was completely defined by what some would call a hell realm. And I believe that I was in that hell realm for quite some time. It's not a realm that I was in because I was choosing it, it was unconscious. Now, this is really important, Trey, is that the unconsciousness that I was looking to unpack inside of myself, this unconsciousness in me went and did a whole Bilbo Baggins, Frodo, Gandalf leave the Shire and go on a big journey to look for help and to look for assistance in unpacking the difficulty that was inside of me. And I did, as you say, I went to the butcher, baker, candlestick maker, and I went everywhere to everyone, to other countries, to try and unpack this thing called Tommy and to see if I could get myself into a better feeling place. But the one thing that I didn't understand, which is very, very important for people to understand, is there was never a Tommy. That's a leap. I get it, Trey. I get it. But this conflation of what we call Tommy isn't so. It's seemingly so to my body. It's not true. So there was an addiction, a true blue addiction inside of me, which was the addiction to Tommy and all Tommy's proclivities. So if I went and visited the pyramids, who came with me? Tommy. If I went and drank ayahuasca, who went into the circle? Tommy. If I drank cacao, who was there? Same fella. If I went into the aftercare psychotherapy group, who was there? Tommy, Tommy, Tommy. But what never got questioned in all of these places was this thing called Tommy. And when that started to get questioned, everything started to unravel. It unraveled, and it unraveled in an afternoon, Trey. And I tell you, it wasn't an Eckhart Tolle type of blissful moment. It was hard. It was an existential rocket launch. It was hard because I had drank the ayahuasca. I had sat with the facilitators, the therapists, the ayahuasqueros, the witches, all of it, just all of it, Trey. And you see, drinking ayahuasca on a Saturday night it's wonderful, but not on Tuesday morning. Tuesday morning, this fella Tommy showed up again. It's like, you hear, hang on, what? So here's how it goes, Trey. Every problem that I've seemingly ever had, this character called Tommy showed up. He was at every problem that I ever had. This character called Tommy. But that character called Tommy never got questioned. And when it started to get questioned, all the relief started to unpack into my system. And then the experience that I was having internally was very, very different. So it's an unusual thing to say, but I don't believe there's a Tommy. I don't. And the other way of saying it, Trey, is when Tommy showed up at the party, there was trouble. But when Tommy left the party, the music got really good. And I'm living that now. I'm living that now.
All the time?
Tommy, all the time. All the time. And we call it there's a WhatsApp group that I run called the Light Being Meditation Group. And in that group, we call it Dendritic sniper duty. So when this thing called Tommy wants to show up and wants to respond to my partner Rachel in a particular way, he wants to respond from 1979 usually, right? He wants to respond exactly like my dad with his tone of voice, and the energy within my body may want to speak to my partner Rachel just like my dad spoke to my mom. Now, dendritic sniper duty, what that specifically, precisely, accurately means is you need to not say that thing. Don't say that thing. You don't say that thing. Why? Because you're going to copy and paste 1979 or 1989 onto 2024. And you wonder why your stuff isn't changing. That's why it doesn't change, because you keep copying and pasting 1989 onto 2024. You see, a lot of people, Trey, they want change, but they don't want to change. They want change. They want to go to all the circles. They want to go down there to Mexico and take psilocybin. They want to go over to Peru and drink and Iquitos and drink ayahuasca. Well, good luck, Buttercup, because I know when you get on that plane and you're coming home, who's coming home with you. I know who it is. I know who it is. And we know how we know how to remedy this, Trey. This, what I'm speaking to is I'm speaking to the viewers, to the people that are watching this on YouTube. You can feel wholeness, you can feel bliss, you can feel happiness, but you're not going to be able to feel those things in your body when this dark passenger, this hijacker, shows up in your morning. The hijacker needs to be named, and the hijacker is what you've taken yourself to be. When we can name that hijacker and start to dissolve that hijacker, you're going to have a better time.
Sure.
That's what happens.
I got a question, right? So the neural pathways that we've created because of our experiences up to this point, whether that's through the story, the narrative, the persona, recreates our reality the way that we have lived our lives, right? Because of the reactions and because of the stories. My question is, it sounds like you have reached like maybe an ego death, or what someone would call an ego death of the persona, right? And so like there is no Tommy, there's just this awareness of experience and that you're floating through your reality in this way. But then Tommy creeps up, right? And wants to have a reaction. Now, my question is, because I just felt this yesterday, right? Like I'm not going to act like I'm totally awakened and this enlightened being. Like I had a triggering moment for myself. Now, is that the neural pathway that is the persona Trey, or is that anger inside of me triggering that neural pathway? Like, what is it? I know this is a hard question. This is the hard question to answer for myself, but like, is it the environment that is playing that pattern, or is it the anger that's already inside of me that's creating that? That makes sense.
It's a perfect question, Trey. It's perfect. So you were in a particular environment and someone or something was viewed, you saw it, straight away it went through that whole mechanism of you viewing it, and before you knew what was happening, there was a gunslinger, and the gunslinger's in your third endocrine center, boom, he had the gun out. Before you knew what was happening, he had the gun out. Okay, so the gunslinger is out. Now that gunslinger's called Trey. Okay, now that ain't you, by the way. So your superior self ain't a Trey. Your superior self is literally that, and this is how it gets known. We're looking for your superior self to be experienced in your body, which means we got to negate or get rid of, or at least point to, this thing called Trey, the gunslinger. So your third endocrine center kicked the saloon doors open. Boom, he's got a cowboy hat, he's got holster, and he is the quickest draw in the West. He pulls the gun, bang. Now he's doing what? He's projecting. He's angry with her. She's what you at? She definitely did the thing. She's after causing this trouble. He's after sending me that email. He definitely, so he in the environment is now the cause of this in me. So what's happening is your sympathetic nervous system is now absolutely lit up. Now, everything that I've just said happens in a second. It's like cha-ching, and he's got the gun out and he's blasting. Okay, so there is a pit or a moment where you need to consider what would it be like to, you've got no choice about the feeling because the feeling is through the autonomic nervous system. So you're feeling this particular way, Trey, and now you need to not send that email. Do not say the thing that you're about to say to that lady. Do not allow your anger to move on to that man. Don't do that. The reason that we want you to not do that is because we're trying to get the energy to stop going horizontal. It's going horizontal. It's leaving like a Wi-Fi signal off a Wi-Fi router. It's leaving your third endocrine center. Now it's going out into your environment. And what it does in your environment is it wash, rinse, repeats. That's what it does. I can guarantee you that the situation that you experienced just yesterday is a repetition compulsion in your body that may not be exactly the same thing, but it's going to be a repeat of something that you've had an experience of lots of times before. Once you know it's repetitive, Trey, you know you're being played. You're getting shell gamed by something that's very old in this place, Trey. Very old. Because it looks like Trey, talks like Trey, moves like Trey, picks up the phone like Trey, and by all intents and purposes, people will think it's Trey, but it's not. It ain't Trey. It's something else, but it ain't you. It ain't you.
What is the shell game that you speak about, right? A lot of people are hearing you for the first time, and some of the semantics that you use they're not used to or accustomed to. Plus, we're different countries, right? So there's different lexicon that we use. But like when you talk about the shell game, right? Like what does that mean?
So the shell game is actually the shell game purveyor is the guy that's on the corner in New York City. He's sitting down on a box. He's got a little table laid out, and he's got 3 shells. And underneath this shell, he puts a pearl, and he calls you up. He's like, come on, have a go. All you got to do is follow where the pearl is. That's the shell game. But this shell game, because you ain't never going to win, by the way, because he's doing this a long time, and he's quickety quick. And why are we pointing to the purveyor of the shell game? Because the purveyor of the shell game is the gunslinger known as Trey. He's got you before you got him. This is the game. So the holiest, the jihad of all jihads is the spiritual warfare that goes on inside you, Trey. The only war you ever have to solve is this. You solve this war, you're going to bring peace to the hologram. This is what this means. This is not arbitrary. The Wi-Fi signal in your body will start to change the hologram, change your environment. So the shell game, when you had that difficulty yesterday, what happens is it seems as real can be. So he goes, he did do that. Look under that. He did do that. He's got you. And now you're kind of like, okay, I'm convinced. So now your fight or flight system, your anger, your avarice, your rage, your agitation, frustration, which societally now you're trying to repress it. So now it's really hurting your immune system. So you get a flu or a cold in 3 days' time. So now the purveyor of the shell game, again, he's wearing a hat. You can't really see his face, but he looks a little bit like you. And that's what it is. You're being played inside your body chemically by a very, very, very old, ancient purveyor of a trick. You're being tricked because you're being convinced that the darkness and the darker chemistry in your body is relevant, but it's not. It's only going to hurt you. It's not relevant. You want to bring a solution to what happened yesterday, you're going to have to not be Trey, which is great because you ain't Trey.
So let me ask you this, Tommy. Like, so when I hear that, right, like I'm a big believer in that trauma resides in the body. There is the storm that you talk about, like, is inside the third endocrine, or in the third center of my body, and it stays there until it's dealt with, healed, right? Essentially, right? Like cathartic. In my opinion, in my belief, is that by having a cathartic release, then that energy is taken out of that zone, right? So when I'm in these environments, right, and I have that persona, and I have that idea or thought that I'm going to play this program again, that triggers these emotions, right? So if I change the narrative, if I change the neural network in my mind to play a different program, that energy is still there, essentially, right? So how do I heal that energy that is there residing from the old persona? And how do I heal it to free it from my body, so that way I can be something totally new?
Excellent. You've been thinking about this, Trey. So, okay, 1979, some difficulties have your society, your culture, your family have programmed the lower endocrine centers in your body, or what people might know as the chakra system, has been programmed. There is a cellular structure, an autonomic nervous system program that runs subconsciously. So you have this problem in your third endocrine center, and now you leave the Shire, your name is Bilbo Baggins, and you're going to go look for relief. So you believe, it's your belief, Trey, what you've just said to me, that you're going to go somewhere and there's going to be a cathartic release of this energy. But what I'm saying to you, if you get behind that energy, you're going to see that what needs to happen with it is it needs to be not felt anymore in order for you to feel better. Now, a lot of therapists, so now the caveat to this, the thing that's important, the body keeps score, I understand. The thing that's important to this is I did holotropic breath work for 10 years. 10 years, Trey. I was breathing a little bit deeper, a little bit faster, amazing epic music. Tommy's on the mat. It's a big, hairy deal. And it's like, all of this stuff is going on. And there's this seemingly big catharsis going on. However, when I was indulging in an awful lot of this, what was happening was I was in a place called Westport in the west of Ireland. And it would be a very, very beautiful Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon. And Westport as a location in Ireland is just beautiful. And I would have been doing this in 2006. So it's 2006. It's a Saturday. It's beautiful. I got a little bit of money. I got a little bit of shelter. I got a nice car. I got some good friends. All of that sort of stuff is going on. And now here I am seemingly going to solve something from 1979. What was it that was robbing the moment of the actuality of what was happening at that time? So your presupposition, Trey, is there's something in you that needs to be healed. What I'm saying to you is the solution is prior to the problem. It's before Trey.
The solution is before Trey, right? Getting in touch with that essence.
Yes.
Right? Getting in touch with that essence. Now, is this, when you got in touch with this essence, was this in 2017? Like, was this?
Yeah, that was the July 27th. That was that kind of event.
So what was that event, and how did you get in touch with that essence, the essence before Tommy, the persona, the mask?
It was, the persona is an amazing word, Trey. Persona, when it's the etymology of the word persona, it means what the sound comes through. That's actually what persona means. The sonas means sound. I'm very, very connected to clairaudience and sound and hearing things in a particular way. So I was sitting on the couch, and what happened on July 27th, 2017 is I had an abrupt awakening to the fact that everywhere I went, everywhere I looked, every rock I looked under, there was this energy that was motivating me and promoting me internally to keep on looking. The seeker in me, which was looking for relief, was actually quite addicted to the chemistry of seeking. So it would keep looking and looking and looking, and maybe not this ayahuasca circle, but that ayahuasca circle is definitely going to do it. Maybe not this smoked DMT, but that smoked DMT, that's going to do it. So it was always, oh, look over here, look over here, look over here. You'll get relief here, there, everywhere. But actually the relief never came. And what happened on July 27, 2017 is I saw that. I didn't just see it. I saw there was a movement in me that needed to cease. And that day, that movement in me did cease. In terms of the seeker, the saying goes like this, Trey: the seeker is the sought. You are what you've been looking for, and you ain't Trey. It takes a second for this to land, but you have a proclivity for the idea. And lots of people have this proclivity that they're going to go to Costa Rica and smoke DMT and things are going to be okay. And I have seen in ayahuasca circles since 2012, I have seen hundreds of people not get the relief that they were looking for. They didn't. It didn't change anything, because there's only one thing that's going to change it, Trey. Only one thing's going to change it, is that when you see that you are what you've been looking for, you are what you've been looking for, you are where you're looking from right now. It's happening right now. If you can detray yourself, this is Hebb's law. This is the unwiring and the unfiring of the seeker. What's going to be left? Well, you're going to see what's going to be left. And when that starts to move through you chemically, you're going to be presented with the exact same problem you were presented with yesterday, and you're not going to see a problem, because guess who ain't there? Exactly. Homeboy with the cap and the shells and the this, that, and the other, he's gone. He's gone. He's gone because he is. I say this, I'm going to say something to you, and I'm going to say it in a particular way. So me and you, we meet up, we go surfing. Me and you, we meet up, we go paddleboarding. Me and you, we meet up and we go scuba diving. Okay, so I say to you afterwards, I don't acknowledge the surfer. I don't say, hey, surfer, let's go for a coffee. I don't go, hey, scuba diver, let's go for a coffee. I don't point to the activity of paddleboarding and say, let's go for a coffee. They're activities. Okay, now just listen to this, because this is the gift that keeps on giving if you get it. Trey is an activity of the default mode network within your system. You ain't surfing, you ain't paddleboarding, you ain't scuba diving, and you ain't Trey. You're not. You're not the activity, but you've been beholden to the activity, because yesterday the gunslinger got you. You didn't feel good after that. That's what happened. And when you can see this, you're going to see that you ain't the activity. You're when the lower frequencies in your body are seen for what they are, an activity, when these frequencies get lower down in volume, so we turn down Trey's gunslinger in 3, we turn down her needy sort of not good enoughness in 2, and we turn down his terror in 1. What shows up? Well, now you've got a gap, and the chemistry that comes as a top-down phenomena into your body is the healer of all healers.
So the phenomena that comes down from the original source of who you are comes in and turns down that knob, those knobs, right?
Yes.
But it's opening yourself up to that source, right? It's opening yourself up to that original source, in which we get caught up in the game and we don't ever do, right? So is tuning into that source meditation for you? Is it a particular meditation? Is it a particular modality that you have? You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. I get the practicalities of what you're saying. Okay. So you asked me at the start of this, what's my experience? My experience is that you're the source. That's it. There is nothing to look for. There's only the third endocrine center, Trey, that's going to go out and, you know, oh, I have to tune into the source. No, you don't. You have to tune out Trey. Don't tune into the source. That's just there. It's shining upon you right now. It's moving through you right now. It's, you can call it bliss, you can call it wholeness, you can call it peace, you can call it being beholden to the magic trick. There is nothing but beauty here right now. It's moving through both of us right now. It's rushing right through my body right now. It is the way it is. Now, if you want, you can jump Trey in front of this and go, yeah, but hang on a second. I got this shit in here and I got to bring it over there and I got to unpack. Okay. No problem. I'll go with you. I'll sit with you. No problem.
Sure.
I know it. You're going to see it. I drank ayahuasca 108 times, Trey. I didn't drink it once. I went and did holotropic breath work countless times, Trey. I didn't do it once. I did it for a decade. I was in psychotherapy for 3 decades, Trey. I didn't do it 3 times. 3 decades. And I'm here to tell you, you ain't Trey. You are what you've been looking for. You are the ultimate freedom that's ever been in this place. You're the bliss that you've been looking for. And how will you get to experience that? Easily. Tomorrow, when you're presented with a problem, you're going to go, hey, gotcha. Not doing it. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to hurt her. Don't hurt the girl. Don't hurt that guy by sending that email. Don't hurt them. They're already hurt. They're presenting you with a particular type of energy because they need you to be something other than Trey. And when you're other than Trey, they're going to change. Mm-hmm. The electromagnetic field of the person that you had a difficulty with is going to show up differently when you show up differently. Now you ain't going to show up differently. You're just going to show up.
Sure. So when you're operating in this state of being, right, there's something that's totally not Tommy, right, but the original source of who you are. Like, do you still have goals for yourself? Do you still work towards things? How do you move through life? How do you like cultivate your experiences in a more deeper and a more palpable way? Like, I mean, what is that? You know, what does it mean to live in this life, in this world, in this reality from that state of being, right? Like, I mean, because I look at your website, it's very beautiful, by the way. Velvet voice, and you have services that you offer for people, right? And I'm assuming those services are for guiding people to the original source of who they are. But does this being of who you are now that operates in this reality, do you still have goals set for yourself or for itself or for, I guess I'm kind of answering my own question here because it's almost like as you help others, you're helping yourself anyway. But what are your thoughts?
When you get addicted to the oxytocin in your body and you get addicted to what you've just pointed to, which is you're helping people, you're feeling good and you're feeling whole, and it starts to envelope on itself, Trey. It starts to envelope on itself. And I was with a lady, I was doing some one-to-one work with a lady, and we were live in person with each other. It wasn't on Zoom or anything like that. And I've been working with her for a bunch of time, I think about 3 years now. And she's a beautiful being, a beautiful woman. And something changed inside of her. The sort of victimization, the guilt, the not good enoughness, the anger, the frustration, the agitation was really alive. And she really felt like this person had done this to her. And then something happened. Something happened. And what I witnessed was so deeply magical to see that she could go from feeling one thing around this person to feeling something quite different chemically. It was like everything that I had done up to that point was worth it to see that, because she's not the same anymore. She's not the same anymore. The beauty of the love that opened up through her when she could let go of the anger that was projecting out of her body. It was Trey, it was special, very special to see people have these moments. So I run the live superhero satsang in Dublin, and we were on about our 4th now, There was about 35 people at the last one. And this is what we speak about. But what we do is punch a bit of a hole in it, and then it starts to kind of rain this particular type of light. And when this happened on a one-to-one basis with this lady, I mean, it's everything. And by the way, it's in the post for you. Yeah, it's in the post for you. It's about 650 yards behind you, 550 yards, 650 yards behind you. You can hear it. It's really nice. It's really nice. So the triggers that go on inside your body won't be there.
So when we experience that bliss, right? Do we just keep going after that bliss because it feels good to us? You know what I mean? Like when you feel that bliss body, when you get into these states of just oneness, right? Like whether that's through meditation or psychedelics, is that why we keep going for psychedelics? Is because that experience, we're chasing that experience?
Yeah, good. That's a great question, Trey, because like my desire for psychedelics is just, it's not there. It's just not there. Now, I have no problem with psychedelics. Ayahuasca is a profound substance, and I adore ayahuasca, but there's no desire in me to drink ayahuasca right now. I'll drink it again, sure, whatever, but I don't need any of it, because that which was seeking relief has been relieved by knowing that it's not so. If that wall ain't solid, Trey, if that floor ain't solid, well, guess what? The Tommy thing ain't solid. And that when that moves through you, there's no seeking bliss. What you have to understand the nature of negation. Trey's personality, Tommy's personality, Rachel's personality is buried in the subconscious body mind. It's known as the body mind. We need to turn the volume down on 1, 2, and 3 chakras. Turn that volume down. And what happens is you don't have to go looking for wholeness. You don't have to go looking for bliss. You don't have to go anywhere. There's nowhere to go anyway. You've arrived. There's nothing to do. Things will just be done. It's a very different experience. There doesn't have to be a goal that you reach for. You can understand the nature of a fifth dimensional type of creation, which is going to show up as the unknown when there's way less Tommy. That's what happens. Everything that you want, let's just say the energy that looks after your blinking, the energy that looks after your blood oxygen levels, like it's not going to leave you short, Trey. It's going to look after you. It's very beautiful. And it knows you in terms of what you are. It is you, basically.
We said fifth dimensional perspective, right? Now, let me cut you off. But like when you have this fifth dimensional perspective of who you are, I mean, so do we really, I mean, so the goals that I have, like the pulling that I have in my heart to be of service, to do the things that I'm doing, is that from the persona of Trey, or is that from that fifth dimensional perspective of like pushing me in this direction?
Get rid of Trey and all those questions will not need to be answered anymore. Get rid of Trey. You'll see it's all the pushing you. You're male, you've got testosterone moving through you, you're looking after some people, you got little ones you look after, you got this one, that one that you're looking after. So you have all that sort of gumption and that energy in you, and that has a particular type of momentum, all of those, and it has a particular type of energy, and it's good energy. When that gets, the edges can get frayed on that when you're operating purely from that kind of third energy center, which is where the doer and is where the seeker broadcasts from. When that gets turned down and there's more peace for peace sake, more wholeness for wholeness sake. That's what we're talking about.
Sure. Now, when you experience that source of energy, the original state of who we are, do you see that as light? I know you hear things, but do you see it as light?
Yeah. 100%. So one of the things that's very important, Trey, is the idea of a light worker, or the idea of a light being. So I actually gathered something for you earlier on to make this very explicit, tangible, and obvious to people. It's a study that was done in 2009, and there's a very short little piece to read to you, if that's okay to read to you. It's very, very short.
Sure, go
Did we
ahead.
freeze?
Yeah, go
Oh,
ahead.
yeah. Okay. So I'll read this to you. In July 2009, a study conducted by Japanese researchers demonstrated that human cells emit light, confirming the phenomenon of biophoton emission. The study was published in the journal called PLOS ONE, and it was led by Dr. Masaki Kobayashi. In this study, scientists discovered that human bodies emit a light that our eyes can't see. They use a special camera called a cryogenic CCD camera to capture this light, also known as biophoton emission. And here's the most important bit, Trey, for people that are listening or viewing this on YouTube or wherever. They also found that the amount of light emitted was inversely related to cortisol levels, meaning when a body is in a high state of stress, the light emission is weaker. When a body is in a low state of stress, the more coherent frequency, the light emission is brighter. When you feel stress, Trey, the light goes down. When you feel peace, your light goes up. It is not metaphorical. It's not metaphorical, Trey. You're a light being. It's not metaphorical. So you're a smart fella. Let's say I'm a smart fella. He's a smart fella. They're a smart fella. I'm listening to Masaki Kobayashi on this one. I ain't listening to Trey. I ain't listening to me. I'm listening to Dr. Masaki. What did he say? That there's light in Trey's cells. What is that? Because Trey didn't know yesterday when he was going through what he was going through, seemingly that there was light in his cells, but there is.
Sure. Yeah. No, I love that study, and thank you for sharing that. I'll definitely check that out. But
it's
I was
amazing,
just,
Trey.
yeah, I was just recently listening to Dr. Hoffman, Donald. I think, yeah, Donald Hoffman.
Donald, yeah.
And he was talking about how we live in this virtual reality, and this is the VR headset. And he was explaining some of the newer science that is coming out about this reality. And I'm not 100% dialed in, so I'm getting out of my lane a little bit here. But he was saying that some of the new science is showing that they're able to develop either calculations or some type of performance where they can see outside of space-time reality, some things that are going on outside of space-time reality. And he's saying that there's like sacred geometry that is showing up, and some obelisks, or however you say that, is showing up on the outside of this reality, which I find it so fascinating because, like, you know, having one in DC right down the street from me, like looking at that, like, why is that outside of time space reality? And then I go back to Robert Monroe, his experience about out-of-body experiences, and he talks about in his third book going to the point of seeing an aperture and a emitter of light, almost like projecting. You know what I mean? He was like, there was no Big Bang. And going back to your point about this being a hologram, like, what if these obelisks or however you say that, outside of space-time reality, are the projectors of light that are shining down into this 3D reality, projecting the illusion that we think that we're in right now currently. However, science is just now catching up to that. I'm not saying that there is any articles or research that supports that. That's just him speaking on a public format. But what are your thoughts on that, right? Like, to your point about this being a hologram, like, as science catches up to that we are light, how does that change the game for the average Joe that's working in a factory, that is working two jobs? Like, how does that change their reality? Knowing this information.
So the average Joe, the regular person, needs to start to become interested in their experience, and they need to question who they need to ask themselves, who am I? What am I? Which is even a better question. What am I? Where am I broadcasting from? What is this? And to your point about Donald Hoffman, keep watching Donald Hoffman over the next couple of years, because he's going to some very, very interesting places. And he cites the work of Nima Arkani Hamed. And Nima Arkani Hamed is the high energy physicist that states quite clearly space-time is doomed, which means what? It means that it's not fundamental, which means what? There's no floor. That's it. That's where it goes. So that's where it goes. So you start with there's no floor. Yeah, but there's a dude in a factory and he's walking, he's very much having an experience of walking on a floor. So what he needs to do is contemplate. It's contemplation of his, how would I like my experience to change? Well, I'd like it to feel a little nicer. Okay, so if you want it to feel a little nicer, go inside yourself, calm your autonomic nervous system down really, really softly, and you'll feel nicer. Yeah, but I don't want to sit down. I don't want to meditate. Okay, well, good luck with believing that the floor is solid. Off you pop, no problem, because this place will keep on producing the lie all day, every day. Eternity was built for such things until such time as it's wakey time. And you're like, okay, I need to get on the right side of this. And when you do, you start to understand that what Donald Hoffman is pointing to is exactly the experience that I had in ayahuasca. How could I see what I was seeing? So I've just cited the 2009 study to you, Trey. Okay, so I'll say another thing to you directly, but it'll be also to the listener and to the viewer. And here it is. You, Trey, which you're not, you have a sixth endocrine center in your brain. Sixth endocrine center. It's known in some circles as epiphysis. That's one word for it. Another word for it is the pineal gland. So you have a pineal gland. In your pineal gland, there is right now, there's a six-sided sacred geometry rhombohedron shape. Right now, not yesterday, not tomorrow. Don't have to go drink ayahuasca to find out. I'm talking about right now. So if the dude on the factory floor needs to stop and go, my cells are emitting light and I have sacred geometry in my head. Okay, I might need to have a little think about that. Take a day off work, do a little bit of meditation, and think about, why do I have a six-sided rhombohedron in my brain, in this so-called pineal gland? What is that? What's that all about? That's a good question. Go and investigate those things. Be interested in your experience, but be more interested in the upliftment of the experience of other people and watch where that goes. Yeah. Because,
wow.
Yes. Right now, Trey.
It's a mirror, right? Like it's essentially a mirror. It's essentially a mirror. So like your relationships are a direct reflection of how you're treating yourself internally.
Yeah. So you said to me earlier on, what's your experience? There's no tray. I'm not here with a tray. I'm here with God. I'm here with love. I'm here with bliss. I'm here with creation. That's what I'm here with.
It's funny. I asked that question. I sit here and I ask that question to all my guests, right? Because I'm so interested on knowing because when they relate to me, their subjective experience of reality, I know it's just from the stories and their experiences and their programming and things of that nature, which doesn't make it wrong. It's just interesting to me because it tells me a lot about who they are as a person. And so like when I ask that question to you, right, you have to essentially, you're telling me from where you're at right now, but majority of the time people are asking me these questions from that Trey or from that Tommy or something like that. And so like when you break that down, I mean, that's our grounding. That's what grounds us in this reality is the stories. You know what I mean? The programs. And it's funny. I was just thinking about this weekend, a lot of the noise, a lot of the distractions that we experience in our lives, the addictions, is because we're not connecting with that source. We're not connecting with the originality of who we are. We're thinking that we are the persona, and I still haven't been able to shed that, right? Like I still attach myself to the idea of the concept of Trey and all the stories and programs that are associated with that. But it's getting easier to see, to have a perspective, to take a step back and see a meta experience, like whether you want to call that a 4D awareness or whatever. But I feel like a lot of the distractions are put in place because I don't know if the game is set up that way, but like, just look at all the things that go on in America, right? Everything that's going on right now essentially is a distraction from
Yeah.
you connecting with who you truly are.
Mm-hmm.
And the more that we dive into it, right? Like the more that we get into these heightened states of awareness, not heightened, I should say, like more into fight or flight, right? We start identifying more and more and more with the persona. And so we want to find
Yes,
relief from
yes,
that. And so we
yes.
go to the alcohol, we go to the drugs, we go to social media, we go to TV, we go to Netflix, all to disassociate from our experience, because what we think we are is driving the suffering that we continuously experience day in and day out. It's when we have these conversations like you and I are having about our true essence, about our origin story, where we can feel a little bit more like we're home, right? Like when we can feel we're tapping into something different, when we can really just have this awareness of something totally different. And then I think that's where realities start to change, is in that
Yeah,
space. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like I'm still learning how to do that and tap into that. And it feels great. And it feels very palpable. And I know when I'm tapping into it, and when I can't clear my head, and when I can feel it in my body, and I still have those triggers. So I'm curious now, like really, seriously. I mean, like, does Tommy still pop up for you?
Big time, for sure. Comes in, and the thought comes in, and when the thought comes in, what's going to happen is it's going to create a neuropeptide, and the neuropeptide's going to try and get past the brainstem. When it gets past the brainstem, the gunslinger's already out. Now you're feeling it. So it comes in, now you're feeling it. Now it is making my experience seem a certain way, but I don't believe it. So I just see the neuro. I see the thought. I go, no, 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 no. I know exactly where you're going, because you tried to go that way 6 years ago, 16 years ago, 26 years ago. So I'm not buying what you're selling. So you can head off elsewhere, and it does, and it does. And what happens now is I have unwired and unfired that particular thought, because I know where it goes, and it's not going to go anywhere good. And it is, the level of it inside of my experience has dropped by 70%. So when Tommy pops up, it's like, how are you getting on? All right, good lad, stick on a baseball cap and off you go. Good luck to you.
Sure.
I'm not interested.
Well, and being, in that consciousness, that awareness, I mean, to say things like you are God, right? To me, right, is where I come from, like that is blasphemy, essentially, in its finest.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So like I can only imagine like some of the conversations that you may be having, the programs that you are shattering, or maybe even cracking the foundation of. Because I mean, if you think about it, totally, you tell somebody something, whatever your exoteric dogmas told you at the very beginning of your life are wrong, right? And so you're not just saying that your religion's wrong, you're talking about your entire family that have believed in that religion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially your mother and your father, who you may really love and respect. And to some people, that puts them automatically in defense mode. They're like, my mom is a saint. She's not wrong about this. How do you navigate those waters? Like when you start having conversations with people that are really dogmatic, and not that there's anything wrong with that, they're just where they're at. But how do you start and have those conversations?
Again, when the activity that's known as TRE, which is a posterior cingulate cortex, anterior cingulate cortex default mode network activity. So you go to that activity and it gets dialed down. It goes from 11, let's say, down to 3. You feel really good. You feel really nice inside. You feel really peaceful. Service isn't something that you do. Service is a way of being. Then what happens is you go into your family's company, and now because you don't have TRE dialed up to 11, now you're starting to see what your family are. You start to see them clearly, cleanly, and now you really see what it is to be placed as a Christ-like energy in this place. So it's one thing to point to Yeshua. It's another thing to live like that. That's
to become like
thing.
that. To become like that.
Yes.
I know this sounds so cheesy, but like when I was watching Dune 2, I had that realization. It was like not comparing him to Yeshua, but like just the story of the hero's journey of that entire movie, or the two movies, where he's becoming this prophet, this prophecy, fulfilling this prophecy. And it's like when he became it, and funny enough, he takes like, have you seen it yet?
So my partner got me into them. I love it. I
Dune,
love it.
Dune 2, the movie, right? I haven't read the books, but like Dune 2, the movie, and I'm not trying to give a spoiler alert, but he takes some type of substance that is similar to psychedelics, right? And he has this wisdom, he has this perspective, and then he becomes this something totally different than what he was before. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think that when I watch that movie, I am enamored by the Bene Gesserits. Those beings, those Bene Gesserits, they are very interesting. I do know that in the DMT, smokable DMT community, they call it spice. There's something to that. I think that the hero's journey and the arc within that movie is everything that is important inside of you. And I think when you get the feeling that you get when they talk about that Mahadi, I think they call it, they call it a particular name where when realized, it changes everything. It changes the experience that they have. And the thing about that movie is that it's when you embark on finding out what you are, you're going to see that it's way, way closer to what goes on in that movie than not.
Sure.
That's what you'll see.
And so what leads me to just us having a conversation right now, just talking about Jesus or Yeshua, like in his journey. It's kind of hard to say this just because of my past programming. Do you think Jesus was just like a regular guy and like he became the Christ? You know what I mean? Like he became that, like in that movie where he, for the entire thing, he's like, I'm not this guy that they want me to be. I'm not that. But then all of a sudden he has this change, this mindset, this awareness. And then he became that. Like he didn't just like think, okay, have doubt. Okay, I might be this guy. No, he was like, I'm that guy now. Like I am here. I am this. Right. So I wonder if like Christ was like that, where he was, you know, born of man, right, and had this, you know, I mean, lived his life up to a certain point, and speculation is that he left and went to India and learned from a ton of different mystical teachers, right, and there's some great information about that in other books. Comes back and becomes the Christ. I want to get your thoughts on that.
I think from what I've learned, from what I've researched, from what I've looked into, that particular being, Yeshua, Ben Joseph, Jesus, Christ, whatever sort of name you want to use. Let's just say Yeshua for now, because there's a particular frequency and quality to that name. The idea that he could be in the world and not of it after those experiences in India or with Essenes or whatever, to be in the world and not of it is exactly where I'm aiming. That's where I'm aiming. To be in the world and not of it is an illumination of the hologram. To be in a world and not of it means you can be right neck deep in all of the quagmire in this place, but be not of it means to be more like the light of what he is. And that's where this goes. And again, I have meditated on numerous occasions and dialed down the activity of the Tommy system, and I've seen what I've seen in these particular flashes or visions or idiosyncrasies in the projector, whatever way you want to cut it up and serve it, but I've seen them. So I don't know
Can you
what.
Talk about that a little bit. So when you have these experiences, these illuminating experiences, like what are your visions?
So I have been. People need to just understand this quite technically and chemically. So daywalker chemistry is adrenaline, noradrenaline, cortisol. You're going about your day, you're walking for movement, you need all those sort of chemicals. And daywalker chemistry, when we look out into the hologram, is a particular thing. So to understand it in a very specific way, when Tommy wakes up in the morning and opens his eyes, there's a mask being put on. and the mask is called Tommy. So Tommy wakes up and this mask gets put on. And I woke up to this in 2017. So meditation, the process of getting to know yourself, is the process of dialing down that personality structure, which I did. And when I dialed down this personality structure, I was not expecting to see what I saw. I wasn't expecting it. I don't know anything about Yeshua. I didn't know anything about his life, his journey. I didn't know anything about Jesus, but I saw him. And it happened on about 4 or 5 different occasions. It was as clear as you're there. And so it was such a deep experience that I ended up on a live call with Encephalon, and I asked Dr. Joe, I said, listen, what's happening here? What's going on? Like I said, I wasn't expecting that. I don't know anything about this guy, but he was there. He was in my apartment, 3:30, 4:30 in the morning. And I asked Dr. Joe the question and I got the answer. And it was a pretty stunning answer, which is those high frequency beings, when you have a pull towards, whether it's like a Mahatma Gandhi type of figure, no matter what the higher frequency teacher is, let's say you're drawn to Yeshua, the understanding is when you get rid of the proclivities of the personality structure, you become an adept. You'll become an adept. And when you become an adept, you're going to start seeing particular types of visions through your pineal gland, especially at certain times of the morning because of the chemistry of the body at that time. And the very beings, these high frequency teachers, won't be an idea. They'll be in front of you. And when they're in front of you, well, it's game on. It's a different thing then. It's a different thing then. Yeah. And Trey, this is not once either. It's not once.
So when is it raising your vibration up to where they can come see you? Like, you know what I mean? Or is it?
Yeah, your language is the mantra of the Manipura. So you say raise your vibration up. I say turn down Trey. Turn down Trey. You turn down Trey, your frequency will raise. So Trey is the idea that we got the cork wine bottle cork. We pull it underneath the sea, and Trey is trying, and you let go of that. And what happens is it raises up. You don't have to raise your frequency. It's that you have to stop. You need to stop the lower frequencies from being your experience.
So when you're having this experience with Yeshua, like, is that the persona of the man that was Yeshua, or is that something, or is that a consciousness, right? Like, is that the story that he was coming to you in that experience? And if you don't mind me asking, like, what was his message for you in that experience?
Oh, so
I know that's a big question, and okay. I don't like to throw 2 questions at once, but like
the quality of your questions are next level. They're really good. I really enjoy them, Trey. So I need to say this to you. I get a tuning fork. And it's tuned to 432 hertz. Okay, so in the factory, they mold it. If it's at 422, they add some silver on. If it's at 454, they take silver off. So they get the tuning fork molded to 432. So if I bang the tuning fork and bring it up to Trey's ear, that's a 432 cycle tone. Okay, now if I get another tuning fork and I bang it and it's 462, and I put it up beside the 432, nothing happens. There's no resonance. There's no sympathetic resonance. If I get another 432 tuning fork and I bang it and I put it up to the other one, they start resounding. It's called resonantia. It's a resonance. There is no law of attraction. There's resonance. That's different. So Tommy toddles off into the couch. I'm going to turn him off. So I turn him off. I go inside, turn my eyeballs around because there ain't no world anyway to look for. It ain't there. They tried to find it. It ain't there. So I go inside. There's nowhere left to go but inside. So I go inside. And what happens is when there's no Tommy, no Tommy, no Tommy. So Tommy clips out. He's gone clipped out is a Monroe Institute terminology, by the way. CIA loved that terminology too. So Tommy clips out. So he's gone, which is the best place for Tommy is not there, right? Because it's an activity. So that's gone. So now me, my body, my system as a consciousness tuning fork is resonating. What's it resonating? Well, Tommy ain't there. What's resonating? Who shows up? Well, he shows up because it's resonance. It's the same frequency. I didn't go looking for him. I didn't go looking for him. He showed up.
What was his first words to you?
There was no words. There was I'm here. There was no words. There was a transmission. I'm here. And I was like, yo, hang on a second.
What's your response? Jesus just shows up on your couch. Yeshua shows up on your couch.
Yeah. And I was so stunned and so shocked and so I was not expecting it. I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting that. I don't know what to say other than, okay, I'm here. Like, okay, you really are here.
So was he like flesh and body, or was he like translucent?
No,
was
and
he kind of like
energy
body?
Yeah.
So like seeing him as like I don't know, I guess as a hologram, I guess.
Yeah. Like that energy. But the space that I had entered inside of myself by turning off the Tommy, well, that's the resonant frequency. That's what showed up. I wasn't expecting that, but that being, that energy, that consciousness, that's there. You can do what you like with it, but it's there. And I wasn't looking for him. I wasn't looking for it. But then I started to understand very clearly, very cleanly, he is a particular teacher of what we're speaking to here today. He is.
So when he came to you multiple times, like what was his message? Was he just giving you pointers on like things to work on for yourself, or showing you different technologies?
The overarching energy is you're going the right direction. Keep going. We understand how difficult it is to be in a body. And that was the main thing was we understand what it's like to be in a body. We get it. You're going the right direction. Keep watching out in the hologram for signs of our understanding of you. Yeah.
What are those signs? Like what do you interpret as signs?
Earlier on today, I was speaking with my partner, Rachel, about a friend of mine called Paulie. So I was speaking about Paulie, and there was a particular frequency with which I was speaking, and I haven't spoken to him on the phone in, I don't know, man, it could be 6 months or something like that. I hadn't spoken to him. And maybe about an hour after I had mentioned him, he rang. And within that is the teaching that we're learning about resonance. We're learning about the fact that there's not two things and that we're not disconnected. And that to me would be a surefire sign that we need to investigate those types of connections more. And yeah, in terms of Yeshua, in terms of what a skillful teacher. I mean, what a skillful teacher. This dude's interesting. This dude's in, because I kind of like, I'll have a little joke every now and then with him. Like, you know, I would kind of be saying to him, listen, you maybe should have kept your mouth shut there for a while, because I could have heard them boys coming for you a long time before you kind of worked it out. And so I have those kind of interactions. But when it comes time, when you get placed, and you're being placed with the podcast, when you get placed, you know who you're working for. You just, it's like, oh, I thought this had something to do with me. No. You're off the game board, homeboy. You're not interested. You are not interested. What moves through you as love will be in Trey. Yeah, it's real, Trey. He's real. He's real. And I didn't know that. I don't know anything about those places where he's an immeasurable teacher. Anybody that says to me they turn to that teacher, keep turned to him, keep turned to that teaching. He's a particular thing. Like, he's not the same as the ILs, as that angelic crew. He's not the same thing. He's a meat and potatoes type of factory floor. Okay, I get the body thing. Let me help you. That's the type of, yeah. That's that. Like I'm not religious, Trey. I'm not, but I'm telling you, you keep turning towards that particular light, and you're gonna be placed. And then you're gonna think that what moves through you has something to do with you, and then you're gonna see that it's him. Mm-hmm. It's amazing. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. Yeah. And if you can offer your fourth endocrine center, if you can offer that to those higher frequency teachers, they'll go, okay, but we got to turn off those lowers in order for that particular portal to open in such a sufficient way that when the next thing shows up in your life that's going to make you respond from 1979, who shows up? Well, he shows up. Now it looks like you.
So you say you told Dr. Joe that?
Yeah.
I'm going to
I'll
assume
get you the audio.
Dr.
It was
Joe
recorded.
Dispenza, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Joe Dispenza. I'll send you the audio, Trey. I'll send you the. We have it.
What did he say when you told him that Yeshua was in your living room?
He started laughing. And he is treading a kind of a fine water with this stuff. He knew exactly what I was talking about. He knew exactly who I was talking about. I knew that Joe knew. And I said, so what's the story with this dude showing up at 3:30 in the morning? I wasn't expecting that. What have you got to say about that? And he said, well, listen. He said, firstly, it's good to make new friends, which was very intelligent at many different levels. And also, if this particular energy showed up for you, then it showed up for you for a reason. Didn't show up for your brother, for that didn't show up for this person or this, but it showed up for you. And I said, yeah, I wasn't looking. He goes, exactly, you weren't. That's when you know that's your teacher.
Wow. So when you had this, I'm assuming you're doing some of the meditations that we talked about, and you're activating that pineal gland. Now, are you seeing Yeshua through your physical eyes, or is that through the third eye activated by the pineal?
Yeah. So the pineal gland through the sixth endocrine.
So your eyes are closed, Tommy's down, eyes are closed, you're turning inward, and you're having these visions. I've had similar to when I'm waking up out of a deep sleep, where I'm waking up and all of a sudden this like 3D movie almost pops up, and like I've like probably a week ago I had some man was in that movie, but it was like almost like high def. It was like the first time that I could actually see like characteristics of a face and like actually what that face looks like. I don't know who it was. It was like 10 seconds and gone, but it was like some man, older gentleman with a beard. It might have been you, Tommy. I don't know. But it was like 4D, and it was like this really intense like picture of a man. I've had different experiences of that 3D movie popping into my awareness as I'm waking up with different situations, but this was the first time that I actually could see someone's face in high detail. Was that similar to what I'm assuming?
Exactly the same.
Wow. So what is that when you're waking up and you're having these visions?
So when you woke up you would have woken up from delta brainwave state into theta. When you were in theta, you were traversing between theta and a coherent alpha. And in between that slipstream, there's a little bit of Trey coming back to the daywalker chemistry, but then there is a substance called N, N dimethyltryptamine that is being produced at a particular time in your pineal gland. You have DMT in your pineal gland, which enables you to see. And you're not seeing with your third eye, you're seeing with your first eye. It's your first eye, it ain't your third eye. So there's 1 is the pineal, 2 and 3. It's your first eye because that's the first eye that's formed as a fetus. That's the first eye, the pineal. 49 days in, that starts to come online within the body mind. So when you are having those visions, they are inward visions that are happening as a result of your pineal gland being in good order. There was a throughput of energy that was allowed come through, and you could see what you could see. You could see this movie being projected, and that's a normal experience and very, very similar to the experience that I had that I spoke to Dr. Joe Dispenza about. Yeah.
Wow. That's
yeah. So
fascinating.
you're having like visions, Trey. You're having visions that people go to Iquitos and drink ayahuasca for. And what I've realized is what you're realizing. Go to the couch. You'll see. Go to the couch, get rid of yourself on the couch, and you'll see who shows up. And it's a game on at that point.
Have you seen any other Ascended Masters?
Yes.
You made new friends?
Made new friends. Said to Dr. Joe, saw a Yeshua, saw a fella in a purple jacket. I said, do you know who he is by any chance? Because I don't. Apparently his name is Saint Germain. Knew nothing about him. There's him. There was another guy called Sanat Kumara, another high frequency energy, long blonde hair, piercing blue eyes, looking at me like you're looking at me now. I don't know who he is. I don't know nothing about him. I never read anything about him, but he was there.
What about females? Any female Ascended Masters?
An absolutely stunning blue lady that I was actually laying down in this meditation. I will never forget her energy. I mean, this was freakishly intelligent. And you just knew that you were in the company of something entirely different to what you are. And when I saw her, she gave me particular information, kind of information that when you see these beings, there's particular information going into your subconscious to change your subconscious program, and that's what's happening. So this information that she gave me would be a change maker in me, but I wouldn't be privy to what it was. But it was dropped in. It was dropped in really hard and really fast. It was shocking, but it was a female blue being. Amazing, Trey. This stunning sure. Energy. Yeah.
So when you talked about the pineal gland, right, and the six-sided sacred geometry that's in your brain, Dr. Joe also says it's like protected, it's hardened or something, right? Like it's like almost like a pine cone almost looking thing, where it's like you have to do these meditations to get this fluid up your spine to activate the pineal. But then isn't it hardened by something that where you have to continuously do it to where it softens that or opens that up like a flower almost?
Yeah. So the third ventricle is a cavity in the brain, which is where the pineal gland is. And in order for this activation to occur, firstly, you would need attention to be on it. But in order to trigger this particular gland, the breath work, specifically the breath work that Dr. Joe Dispenza is teaching, is very, very good for this. What it does is it gets the sacral bone, the upside down V. It's like an upside down V in your sacral. So when you do this breath work, it starts to move a particular way and it creates a wave. And the wave that it creates moves the cerebrospinal fluid into a positive inductance field. So it goes up the spine, gets into that third ventricle, and the pressure from that, when the sutures of the skull open up, what happens is this charge, this inductance field starts to move up into the third ventricle and starts to switch that particular tuning mechanism on. That's what happens. So that's the kind of physicality of it. So you literally are like a radio with a magnetic field, and you have the ability to do this breath work, sit up straight, and create that positive charge with the cerebrospinal fluid and start opening up this pineal gland. Very interesting.
Tommy, you're very interesting. I can talk to you for freaking years, man.
Same as that, Trey.
I just don't want to stop. I've
enjoyed this very much.
You're just
Trey, there's like you got this podcast, your superior self. There's people that are listening to you. There's people that are watching this, Trey. We have to let them know they're okay. We have to let them know they're okay. We have to show them what we can show them in a particular way. I don't do anything else. I don't think about anything else. I'm not interested in anything else. I sit with people and I do one-to-one work. And when they change, they know that they never needed me. Best moment of my life. Best moment of my life. It's absolutely amazing that people can go from feeling so bad and so heavy and so much darkness inside of themselves to feeling better, to being kinder, and to have a different experience here. And it's the time now where we can show you how this works. You just got to stay with it, and guaranteed it's like painting by numbers. You have all the chemistry in those rhombohedron shapes that's going to light this place up at 3:30 in the morning, and you'll see that the energy that comes through you is going to want to be placed here. It is. And here we are, and here you are with your superior self podcast, which is a node of consciousness. It's an agent of consciousness. It's a teacher. It is your superior self being moved by a so-called Trey is didactic. It's a teaching mechanism. Now, let's say I go sit with you, Trey, and I can work with you in a particular way, and slowly but surely I can pull the shade out of you. Let's say we can go, hey, look. We pull the shade out of you. Now what's left? Well, what's left is a much, much cleaner adept, a much, much cleaner vessel. And now you start looking at particular guests, and you're like, what about this person here? Now everything changes. Now that person starts to broadcast in a way that it touches off other people, and you're the consciousness agent of that movement. It's a huge role that you have. It's huge right now, because these are the things you're drawn to. It's important.
No, it is important. It is very important to be of service to humanity, to where we're at in this space right now.
So why do you want to help people so much then? Why? What is it in you?
I evolve as they evolve, right? Does that make sense? Like as I am of service to others, it naturally changes me, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why I do what I do, and honor the original versions of us in that, right? Like, and create a devotion towards that, to say thank you for this experience. However, I may not be able to see the truth now, but I know that if I keep seeking, if I keep finding, if I keep going, that truth will eventually, I'll resonate with that truth and essentially become. It's almost like when you start a path, or you feel like you're being called towards something. It's almost like, and it's in the Gospel of Thomas, it's like before you start something, the soul already knows or already remembers what it's going to feel like when you receive that. So like the spiritual path is very arduous. It's intense. It's deconstruction of the persona, which is ultimately death at the end of it, right? But the soul remembers what that feeling's like, so it keeps pushing you towards that end result, because it knows what's at the end. It knows what's there waiting for you. And
Yeah.
so like, I love having these conversations because it's the
Yeah.
soul pointing me in that
Yeah.
direction, because it's remembering what it's like to be nothing and everything at once.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So Tommy boy, I tell you what, buddy, we had a conversation today.
That was good. That was good.
Where can people
I,
go? Where can we direct them to go to find your
oh,
work and work with you one-on-one?
yeah. So the website is www.velvetvoice.ie, which is velvetvoice.ie. You'll get me there. Yeah, my number's there. You can WhatsApp me from there. You can book in a one-to-one session through the Calendly if you're so drawn. But just send me a WhatsApp message. Say hello.
Sure. Anything lastly on your heart do you want to share with the audience right now? I mean, we went pretty deep, but is there something that you really want to speak to them right now that are listening?
So to the listeners, to the viewers, to you, Trey, and to everybody that's kind of stayed with this conversation, just really investigate what you are. Really investigate the idea that there is light emanating from your cells. Get involved with what you are, and what you are is completely different to who you've taken yourself to be, and you are inherently unlimited right now. And when we can strip mine the personality away from your body, you're going to see that you are here to help people. You're here, the viewer, the listener is here to help people, to broadcast a frequency of wholeness, bliss, freedom, love, joy, appreciation. And when you learn how to broadcast that from your body, you start to become the solution. This podcast is not about you needing help. This podcast is about you realizing you are the help. You are the help. That's what I have to say about that.
I love it, Tommy. We're going to have to do a part 2 follow up to this, because I think, it's important, and I just love having conversations with you. So thank you, my brother, for this.
Thank you.